What's going on, everybody? My name is DJ Mel, and you are listening to The Sounds of First, coming to you from the beautiful podcast studios here at Waterloo Records, located in Austin, Texas. It's been a while, folks. I've been on the road, just doing my thing, and I'm really stoked about this week's guest, founder of the Black History Bike Ride, Talib Abdullahi.
Hey.
Let's go.
Yeah, thanks for having me today. I'm really excited to be here, man.
No, absolutely. So, first things first, like, I guess we met during your days at Tito's.
Yeah, and that was, looking back on it, that was almost 10 years ago when I started there. So it had to have been probably somewhere early on because you'd been doing a lot of stuff with them for a while, right?
Yeah, I love. Is Elizabeth still involved with Tito's?
Yeah, the lawyer? I think so. I have not been there for a while.
Okay. Anyways, like, how do you pronounce her last name? It starts with a B, and I know if she hears this, she's going to be like, dude. Is it Belanti or?
Oh, Beth.
Yeah. Beth.
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, I always think, Beth is still there.
Yeah.
Beth is a homie.
Yeah.
She's so cool.
Yeah. I love her to death, and she was kind of like my connect with Tito's back in the day when they were very tiny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, she's been there almost since day one.
Yeah. As the company kind of grew, I got more involved, and it's just wild to see them just being a global brand.
Yeah, they're everywhere now.
Absolutely. So it's just weird when you go to like a place like Las Vegas and you go to a bar and then you see Tito's bottles everywhere, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah. No, and it's everywhere. Internationally, you go almost anywhere.
Yeah.
There's just Tito's all over the place.
Yeah. And then after Tito's, was it Yeti?
Yeah. So I was over at Yeti for a few years. Basically, I was kind of working at Yeti while I got my master's.
Yeah.
So I got my master's from UT, graduated last year, which makes me a double Longhorn, which I'm really proud about. So
Hook 'em.
Love the university so much, I had to go back again and give them another giant check.
Yeah. Wow. So let's talk about the Black History bike ride.
Yeah.
First off, thank you for letting me be part of it this year. I really had no idea what it would be like DJing at kind of like at the event, right? After the ride, and just all the folks there, and kind of like the drummers and the performers there, and just the overall vibe, and it's just one of those things that's really rare in this city, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember. Like I remember DJing at a farm on the east side. Like we're talking well over 10 years ago, and I think it was that.
It might have been because there's not that many farms on the east side, but it was Boggy Creek Farm.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's where I DJ. But when I was there, I'm like, okay, I've been here before.
Yeah.
Yeah, so feeling the energy of everybody, and I was just really, really impressed, and I had the best time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And for the listeners and folks, so I founded Black History Bike Ride, not really as with the intent of it turning into this whole community bike ride, like education thing, but really just as a way to educate some of my friends in Austin, like some who are born and raised here, some who are new. But having been, an American Studies undergrad at UT, we talked a lot about freedom communities and, like the struggles of Black communities. And especially because, that was like 2010, 2011, when I was there, the gentrification was in full effect, or kind of really like midway through. Yeah. So it was top of mind. So I picked up a lot of this information at UT, and then, went off kind of into the events world, and in a way had always like wanted to re-engage and get back into that space where I was essentially immersing myself in history, and in a way that I was able to like share the stories, like share Black stories. So, so the idea really to do a Black History bike ride kind of happened kind of at the height of the George Floyd protest, because, there was like so much anger, and, like I remember going somewhere and like people were throwing rocks at the cops, and, it's like one of those things, like there's so much anger and frustration, but when I would like talk to people about, the actual experience, like lived experiences that you could go directly to, there's a historical marker. People were like, I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
I've never heard. And it's not just, Black, white, like everybody, like lots of people. So my thought was like, I've talked to at least a dozen or two of my friends that don't know anything about that. I've been like, what if I like lead a thing? I'll just take people somewhere. So it was the middle of the pandemic, and biking was kind of the way. And I've done a lot of the social rides in Austin. We have like a really rich kind of cycling community here.
We do.
So, I was like, just, hey, meet me at the Capitol at the Texas African American History Monument. And then a week later, we had like 400 people show up to that thing.
Yeah.
So, from there, we've turned it kind of into what we're a fully fledged 501c3 nonprofit. We are rooted in community and creating safe spaces for everyone, but safe spaces to share Black stories. We have an amazing volunteer base. I have two main like collaborators on the rides, Ariel and Brandon, who are like kind of like day one. We've just been in this. Plus, like my wife is the grant writer, Julia, and we have Lauren, who's produced our documentaries. We now have 2 documentaries. It's like one of those things where it's like, it started with one bike ride, and then we have all of this stuff that's happened after. And when I look back, I'm like, man, I can't believe we did all that. That's crazy.
I know that is insane. What was really impressive, just kind of reading up on it, is just the rate of growth. It grew really fast.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. 2020. What a time. You know what I mean? COVID, George Floyd, kind of watching everything kind of unfold on your phones, right, on your computers. Right. It's really cool that you kind of acted on it, right? Because I think a lot, at least I can only speak for myself, that just the fear of COVID and just kind of feeling like having this feeling of helplessness.
Yeah.
Because, I don't have a job, and I'm in the house, and like, we don't know much about COVID, but it's taking people out. We're seeing just chaos in the streets. And
I know.
It was, I remember seeing something, and I have it buried in my phone, and I think I saved the video, but it's this protest in like Portland or somewhere like that. And it was just thousands of people in the middle of the night. You see like thousands of phones, like the lights, right? People just protesting, for George Floyd. I'm like, man, people were just angry / energized, right? And it was, I don't know, just even in Austin, like people were, it was the same thing, right? And I don't know, it's really cool that you were able to like see that, take that energy and turn it into something positive, and provide something that is a very positive thing, and people can actually get on their bikes and be outside, and also enlighten a lot of people. Because like on the rides, you guys make stops, right? And you kind of, you kind of talk to folks about, okay, the significance of this, that, and the other. Right. And that's really, really cool.
Truthfully, as a Black man, there is cognitive dissonance even if you're going to this protest. And I am pro protest. I think, you have the right to exercise disagreement, like you need to be out there doing that. But to me, even amongst my friends and other people who are some activists and in the streets, when you say like, hey, do you know about, it's crazy that this thing is happening in Minneapolis, or this thing is happening somewhere in the country. Did you hear what happened like 100 years ago, like in Clarksville or on the east side? And there's like this cognitive dissonance when like people are really mad at like what they're seeing on their phones. And again, people who have lived here for years, but they're like, oh, I have no idea. I've never heard about that. And truthfully, if you just Googled, it's out there. So, but in terms of really tangible like ways to engage and connect with it, I realized like it wasn't even that I was like, oh, there's a gap. It's like, oh, well, this seems like the right thing to do, like to honor the history, to honor Black communities, to honor, all these interesting stories. Again, like I learned all this stuff in college, and, you have that, like, I just have this information in my head. What do I do with it? It'd been in my head for a while. It's like, what do I do with this? Yeah. Like I need to find a way to share this. And, fortunately people showed up, and there were way more people than we ever could have imagined,
Yeah. Just being there and seeing the turnout and everyone involved, it was just really impressive.
Yeah, you were holding it down too.
Yeah, I really, I don't know, I just walked away from it. I remember on the way home, I was just thinking to myself, like, man, living in a 2026 world, right? And just seeing everything through your phone and kind of seeing kind of like this just one dimension of Austin where it's like just okay, it's cool restaurants and music festivals and this, that, and the other, and and Austin is not that. You know what I mean? It's so much more than that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. My heart was full. When I got home. I was tired, right?
Yeah.
Like it was really hot that day.
Yeah.
And
Did you get a plate?
I did not. Dude, I don't eat when I DJ.
Well, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, you don't eat.
Yeah,
like,
it's funny. Because I have
get a
this
plate?
thing about like having greasy hands and touching my gear. Like I'm just a weirdo. But
no, that's the smart. That's the smart person.
yeah. Everything about it was just really, really cool. What was the funniest thing about the event? It was everyone like getting down like when there was no one there, and it's always like at the end of a party when there's only like 10 people left.
Yeah, and those are all our like very close homies and like lots of supporters and volunteers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Them just getting down and having a good time, and I just loved it because there are a few times when I didn't go super deep with the music, but when I did play like certain songs that I didn't think would go over well, there was like a few people that knew every word. I'm like, whoa.
Oh yeah.
It was super dope. You know what I mean? Because I'm not, a lot of times like people are like, what is this? You know what I mean? Or, growing up in Killeen, Texas and what have you, and being a military kid, and I grew up listening to R&B music, right? I mean, there was a huge African American community in Killeen, Texas, and I think there's a large African American community in most military towns, and so I was just kind of just immersed in like R&B and hip hop music and all that kind of stuff, and just being a nerd about all that kind of stuff, and then I just want to share that, and so when I play a Tina Marie song, not the obvious ones, but when I play it and then you see someone like knowing every word and they're like happy to hear it, it like at your event, it made my day.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It just made my day. But back to your event was just like everything was just highly organized, right? It was just the food, just everything. I mean, you had merch, you just had everything. It was just really, really impressive,
Thanks.
given the fact that when you really think about it, the event hasn't been around for a long time, right? So just, not that it wouldn't be organized after year one or two, but it was just really impressive. Even the look of the website, everything, it was just great.
Well, it all relies on community support. Like we're a pretty open door towards taking suggestions, but also folks offering help, and we've only gotten so far because like our homie like Rapa, Chris and Deanna and the crew at Rapa, the t-shirt company, all of our t-shirts come from them because they're like, we'd like to help you out. Let us know.
Yeah.
And we still pay for them, but it's like we have support in so many small ways from so many people. And we've been fortunate. I think it's the community that we've created, that I've created like in Austin, like really, in different points, like we have this opportunity where in a lot of different ways that people want to help and support and show up, they're able to. Same thing with like Chef Amanda from Olome, which this is like the last week Olome's.
I know, yeah, I read about that the other day.
Chef Amanda, it's funny, like she reached out, or even I think Daniel reached out. It was kind of funny. It was like, I wasn't really aware of, some of the fine dining scene. And so we got coffee, but at first I was like, who's this person reaching out? And we sat down and I was like, whoa, you are so cool.
Yeah.
So legit. And she was like, anything you want. I love what you're doing. Like, I'd love to support how I can. And, that's been, it's just like friends looking out for friends,
yeah.
I think that's how we keep this kind of like grassroots thing around. And the organization also, like likewise, it's like we were fortunate to have David Campbell Lamps come out, and we brought him on to produce the end. So we've been able to scale that up. And, just in terms of event stuff, I have been an event producer for the better half of 10 years. My mom was actually an event producer for a long time too, which is probably where I got it. Maybe some of my good habits and my bad habits.
Yeah.
But I think I try to approach it from like that level of like a event producer, project management, but it's all tied into like experience. Like, how do we make sure like everyone, or I can make everybody happy, but the greatest amount of people have a great time with whatever experience we're putting together, whether that's like something small or something big. Now these are basically the biggest events I put on since my new role has shifted a little bit. But I think that's the thing. It's like project management, but with a human-centered element of making sure as many humans that attend can have a great time. They can connect with people. They can have fun. They can have food. They're hydrated.
Yeah.
There's beer if you want that too. There's a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I will. Yeah. The word that you just mentioned that's at least very important to me is connection. You know what I mean? I think in 2026, we kind of live in a world where it's easy to be isolated, right? I mean, work from home, work remotely. I mean, you could just DoorDash every meal until the end of time and not ever have to deal with anybody, right? But for me, and I'm only speaking for myself, just to be there, right, and to be part of it, just being at that farm, just seeing everyone just smiling and just having a really good time. It all just aligns with like how I want to live, and that's just to be part of things that are just way bigger than I am, and to serve my community.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and that's what, and I'll say this again. I mean, whenever you need me, I'm there. You know what I mean? I just had the best time.
Dope. That's so dope. Well, the interesting thing too, and this is like, maybe it's part of that Sankofa mindset, like kind of the African proverb, like go back and get it. But we've had experiences like this now with Black History Backyard, where it's like we're doing the history stuff and we're at these like historical sites, but we love community and we love having fun, right? And I say that because that site is like the second or third. It's like one of the oldest still standing residences or buildings in Austin. Like it might be number 2 or number 3, like after the French legation or something like that. Right? Yeah. And the nails that are in the walls are like those square nails. And this is at Boggy Creek Farm where we had the party, right? Those are like hand, like someone had to like tap those out by hand when they're square. I think there were around, 18, somewhere around maybe 24 enslaved individuals who, in the records, they know built basically that farmhouse and that farm. And so the family there, Tracy, is working they're like putting up some historical markers. They're trying to do what they can to like honor like the full history of the building. And that's really beautiful. But from what we do at Black History Bike Ride, like, the music and the drums, and I think it's like this underlying, like, we talked about it a little bit at the after party, but like, I think like having this space of joy and celebration on the farm is kind of like going back and like sort of reclaiming a little bit of the just energy on the farm, because it's like, that enslaved people basically were here at the very beginning of the farm. And like to see like a bunch of, black, brown, like just giant groups of people having a really fun time in that space is sort of like, I think maybe like the dream of what those enslaved individuals would hope society would be. Yeah. The word that you just said, fun, right? Yeah. It should be fun, but also just acknowledge that, enslaved folks were there, right? Yeah. But also recognize that for what it is, and that's a very serious thing, but it's not just one, not to cut you off, but like it's joy. Yeah, no. Like the intrinsic, like the joy. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, for me, like, and I don't want to get into the weeds about this, but I am very, when, I'm very aware of that location, and what it symbolizes, right? But also, you're saying, you mentioned joy, and that, like, let's just look at that, right?
Right.
You know, we don't really have to kind of completely focus in 4K what it once was, right? But I don't know. I don't know. That's just me. Like I always like whether it's, you know, the farm or I look at like, you know, something like I don't know, you whatever it may be where like this symbolized like okay, this is you know, this is where like thousands of soldiers passed away like, you know, in World War II or whatever. And like I just think about like okay, well, I just always look at like not always, but I just the way my brain works, like I just look at those things and I'm like, man, that is like, yeah, that was a really, really serious thing. And it was a dark thing, right? That, you know, just a dark time in our past. But um I think that maybe I'm a product, maybe that's just like I'm a product of just like maybe my upbringing where I was always like framing things in a way where like, okay, all right, this serious thing happened, right? And not really looking at the thing like, oh, that, not saying that like you could pull joy from like, you know, Hiroshima or something like that. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Exactly.
But when I was there at the farm during the bike ride, I mean, there was part of me that acknowledged what that place symbolized.
Oh yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? At least for me, I have to recognize that it's not always going to be just joy, but like at least like recognize that that was what it once was. Right. And, but what I liked about your event, it was that I mean, yeah, there was, you observed that, but it wasn't like, you guys weren't like, pressing on that tender spot, if you will, right? And you were just looking at it from, you know, from a completely different lens, and that's from like a lens of joy,
Yeah.
and celebration.
Yeah, and I think that's like kind of what embodies all of the bike rides, because obviously there are a lot of difficult things you have to discuss when you're talking about Black history, and you know we try to really get in the weeds there, but I think we try to make sure that we are discussing the joy, but also the resilience, because like
Right.
if there wasn't a story of like resilience and fighting back and Black communities fighting for what's right, we wouldn't be here. You and I wouldn't be sitting right here.
No,
So
1,000%.
so it's like one of those things where it's like, although, yes, very difficult things happen, we can always talk about like the resilient efforts and the way the communities really banded together and did what they did, in spite of what was right in front of them, or what they couldn't get around. And when we think about that, there's actually, it's probably interesting, unique, but like I encourage people to like clap for all of the like successes and triumphs of like the different like, individuals. Like we talk about John Chase a lot, who is the first Black architect to graduate, first licensed Black architect in Texas, but also first Black architect to graduate from UT. And I'm like, give it up for John, and he went on to do all these things. And like, I have people applaud because I'm like, we're still, even though a lot of those individuals are gone, most of the folks we talk about have passed away. We're like, we can still give them their flowers, like
Exactly.
him graduating happened less than 100 years. It's probably like what, 60, 70 years ago.
It wasn't long ago.
It wasn't long ago. And if we're not doing things like finding ways to celebrate those individuals still, who else is going to be out there telling the story? Is anyone going to tell the story? If they are, how are they telling it?
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. That you continue to kind of illuminate, everyone, right? And especially in a day and age where our attention spans are kind of short, right? And also, we kind of live in a time where things are kind of being whitewashed, right? And just kind of Black history is not being illuminated, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the only way I can put it. You know what I mean? We're living in a day and age where like we're the powers that be or whatever are like trying to kind of tuck it away.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like maybe kind of put it in a place or like make it look like it never existed, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of denying it. And which is ridiculous. You know what I mean? And I salute you, in the bike ride
Thank you.
and
Yeah.
in its continued success. But back to the rate of growth, right? You go from like doing this ride in 2020, and then now you have all these folks involved. You've gotten a grant, right? And then you have like, I think you've completed 2 documentaries already, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first documentary was kind of a shot in the dark, but it was sort of like, hey, like let's do something different but epic. And Ariel and Brandon and our producer Lauren, I was like, hey, like, what if we did a bike ride from Austin to Galveston? It's something I've actually always wanted to do.
So you have not done that yet. Have you guys done it yet?
We did it. That's what our first documentary.
Okay,
about.
that's what the first okay.
It's
okay,
on Austin PBS.
Okay, I need to
it.
check it. We talked about it at the event about where I can watch it.
Yeah. So it's called The Route to Emancipation. Shout out to Austin PBS who very lovingly, like very supportively, like helped us with distribution. You can stream it anywhere. And we over the course, Ariel, Brandon, and I over the course of 4 days. Biked from Austin to Galveston, which is around 350 miles. And I think, one part of it, Ariel and Brandon are very strong cyclists. I'm probably the weakest one, but I was like,
I wouldn't even make it to like, Jesus, like what? I don't even know the route you would take to Galveston, like 290 or something like that.
We did back roads, but yeah, we went from here up through like Lee County, which is like north of Giddings, if you know that route.
No, totally.
And we went from Giddings, like kind of, I think through Brenham to Prairie View. And
so
it's like, we kind of did that where we kind of we stopped in Giddings was like the side of an old freedmen's community. And, we met and chatted with some folks, community members that go to the church there. And then we rode the next day. That was the first day. We rode to Prairie View and we talked to Dr. Marco Robinson, who's become a huge supporter of our project. He's one of the heads of the history department at Prairie View A&M, one of our top HBCUs in Texas. And then, then we rode to the Levi Jordan plantation down. That's in Brazoria County, basically back down, south of Houston. Man, it's when I say it out, it's one of those like, yeah, we'll just go watch it. And I'm like, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, wow, once we got there, that was, into the third day. Then we rode to Galveston to kind of the site where, what is said in the movie, it's like the most likely site where the Emancipation Proclamation or General Order Number 3, kind of enforcing the Emancipation Proclamation, was read in Galveston.
Okay.
By Gordon Granger, who brought all of these Union troops, many of whom were actually African-American Union troops. And that essentially, enforced the Emancipation Proclamation in Texas, in a state where slave owners and the enslaved people knew that slavery was coming to an end, but there wasn't any way for that law to be enforced. So I think, that story and the way that like segues into Juneteenth and the fact that Juneteenth is our newest holiday. And, we still find people that are like, what do I do for Juneteenth? What's, like, it's one of those things where it's like, wow, I grew up, so I'd said my mom was an event producer, but my mom ran a nonprofit that put on the Juneteenth Blues Festival in Houston. So I grew up as like a young kid backstage. Not exactly, when you're like 3 or 4 years old, and also you're, what it's like to be backstage, or when you're backstage as a child, you're just like, what's going on? There's one pineapple on a plate. There's people getting ready. People are doing their vocal warm-ups. And now as an adult to realize, like being able to be backstage with like legends like, Gatemouth Brown and Bobby Blue Bland, like that was like something that like on a day like Juneteenth, like basically back in the 90s, that's something that like kind of sits with me forever. And I think that's like what inspired me to pursue my career in events and event production. Yeah.
A core memory.
Very core memory.
Yeah.
Very core memory.
Yeah.
And that's a long way of saying like, Juneteenth is such an important date that, it's a beautiful date and it's a beautiful story that I think everyone should really acknowledge and really celebrate. So that's in a nutshell, and also with you had a little side quest explanation, but that's kind of what our first documentary is about. Our second one, which we just finished, we're working on distribution right now, so we'll see where it goes, but it's called Cycles of Resilience, and it is, in a nutshell, kind of like, it really encapsulates our 6th annual Black History Ride. So the one you performed at was the seventh.
Okay.
Because, that was the seventh one in a row. So we're entering our 7th year of doing this, which is crazy to say.
That is so crazy.
But yeah, it follows our 6th Juneteenth ride. We had our amazing camera crew, as well as we brought on Yaki Smith, who's like an award-winning, amazing director, professor at UT as well. And we did what we've always tried to do with the actual bike ride events on that one, where many times I'm like in people's DMs or like on the UT or like Houston Tillotson website, finding professors' emails and like hitting them up, a month or two before these rides. I'm like, hey, would you like to come be a guest speaker at this? In the movie, we sat down with many amazing like historians, scholars, and then like local community members, musicians, to get kind of their take on Black history in Austin, different historical sites, and the way the city has changed. And it is awesome. It's very, very cool. Also, thank you, City of Austin. We were able to fund that through a City of Austin Elevate grant. But that, the second documentary essentially takes the viewer basically on the bike ride. So if you aren't able to go on the bike ride, or you're like, because we get a lot of people like, that sounds so cool. And I'm like, well, we have a movie. It's less than an hour.
Yeah.
You can watch the movie if you'd like, But, I think like, again, starting from like just one little scrappy bike ride to like being like, well, we have a movie. Like, we've gotten into some really cool film festivals. That's not something I ever thought we would be doing. It's like, yeah, like we're like taking this small idea and just using it to, like to promote Black stories. And, like, again, I can't believe we're here, but also I'm kind of excited for where we go next,
Yeah. Well, it's impressive. And yeah, seven, right? Just this, like you just said, like going from a scrappy little bike ride to what it is now, where you have basically 2 documentaries. You have one on PBS, and it's being recognized and what have you, is really impressive. You know what I mean? And I just salute you. And yeah, let's change gears real quick. So you grew up in Pearland, Texas.
Yeah. So I went to high school, kind of like junior high and high school in Pearland, Texas, which is, it's like one of those places that gets the ranking for like fastest growing city in the United States, I think, when we lived there. But it's a straight shot south of Houston down 288 from the medical center. So there's just a wide variety of lots of like, doctors' kids, nurses' kids, lots of people that worked in the medical industry. And we initially moved in down there kind of on the old countryside. Like it was kind of very much like it used to be an agricultural, like kind of farming community, like probably, 1930s through 70s, 80s, and it kind of slowly developed. And by the time the early 2000s hit, they just started doing, McMansion suburban things on like the side by the highway. So I grew up in like an apartment basically on the countryside. I could like walk to the high school.
Yeah.
I could like walk to my first job at the Kroger,
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah.
So when you were living in Pearland, like how did you consume music? I mean, of course there's MTVs and like there's BETs and things on television, but were you listening to the radio? And what did you listen to?
I listened to a lot. So that really, really, like I went to high school in Houston, or in Pearland, but I grew up kind of in Sharpstown, Houston. That's like, as a kid, my mom had a townhome over there. And so my mom has been a professional jazz pianist her whole life.
Really?
And my dad's a professional jazz bass. He still gigs to this day. Yeah. And so I would say, truthfully, they were jazz musicians. They played jazz. My dad would say it's Black classical music. Like, so as a child, my exposure to music was just like free jazz, like Rahsaan Roland Kirk and like, Freddie Hubbard and Wes Montgomery. And, but then a lot, my mom was also basically a single working mom. And so, I was at the practices from, basically always at the practices. So, my mom played with like Conrad Johnson, who there's a movie called Thunder Soul about him. He is a band leader in Houston that led kind of this basically black high school, stage band to like national championships several times.
Oh, right on.
That documentary is called Thunder Soul. I grew up like Tuesday night, big band rehearsal at Conrad's house. I'd be like, all right, little kid, go watch TV in the front living room. So I would usually just sit up there by myself, like watching TV or whatever. So, like jazz music is like in my blood, like literally like my mom and dad playing jazz music all the time and being with my mom all the time. It was jazz everywhere all the time. So like consuming music, I kind of like, you're a little kid, kind of started to get into other things. And like, it's almost like I wanted to listen to something different and like kind of wanted to listen to pop music or just anything different. My mom was not really about that. She was like, it's jazz, serious music, it's jazz only.
I totally get it. Yeah.
That was, I don't know if I'd say they're snobs, but they had very strong opinions, extremely strong opinions about music. So
well, I get it. No,
that was
I
the only
totally
thing
get
they
it.
ever played. That's the only thing my mom ever played. So the middle ground, I don't exactly know why, but it was probably kind of MTV's influence when, no, it was before. I remember that was 97, I think. I must have been really young. My mom somehow found out about Jamiroquai.
Oh, really?
And for her, that was like struck the balance of like, I loved it. And I was probably like 5.
Yeah.
But she like started buying me like Jamiroquai CDs. And that was like, as a kid, I feel like that was like, maybe not fully my own choosing, but like that was like the first artist I feel like I really fell in love with as a kid. But I was probably like 5, 6, 7, because it wasn't just like Rahsaan Roland Kirk, like avant-garde saxophones, like down a hallway, Like,
yeah, I mean, when you kind of frame it like as food, right? I mean, you were like eating vegetables, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And as opposed to like when you're young, like, I mean, I was literally just doing this morning where I was listening to like just music that I listened to when I was a kid, right? And like as a little kid, I was really into. I loved the Jungle Book movie, right, and the soundtrack, right. And I just started thinking, like, okay, this is like candy.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? For most kids, like what they listened to when they were kids is like, yeah, you're basically eating candy. But for you, your musical diet was basically like vegetables, like whole foods and what have you. You know what I mean? All the artists that you just mentioned, you like jazz, right? Like, I mean, when I was, that age, I wasn't listening to Coltrane or, you know what I mean? I wasn't listening to Monk. I didn't listen to any of that until I was pretty much an adult.
Right.
You know, so that's pretty impressive. You know what I mean? So Jamiroquai
is the thing. I will say though, that was, out of happenstance being with my mom, because there was a certain point where I was like maybe 11 or 12. I was like 13. No more jazz, please. Like I've at that point consumed probably more jazz music than the average person will consume in their life, like just as a child. So I will say that. But yeah, Jamiroquai. I brought some fun kind of artifacts a little bit.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that in the show and tell, right?
We'll get to that later. But yeah, I think now, I can connect a through line because I still love like funk music and all that. And now, when I listen to Jamiroquai, now that my palate has evolved as, someone that loves music and spends a lot of time listening to music, it's like Jamiroquai is rad. But that's just how there's some guys in London trying to be Tower of Power,
Yeah.
with kind of like the Stevie Wonder, like, which is no shade, but then you get, I love going on that rabbit hole of like who influenced who or like who sampled who. And you're like, wait a second, this is maybe different. In some cases you're like, well, that's the exact same.
Yeah, I'm the same way as well. I'm always intrigued by I'm always curious about the LA studio session musicians.
Oh yeah.
And how it just all the streams just crossed, like the dudes from Toto and just like Michael McDonald and just Lee Ritenour, all these dudes that like they just all worked with each other. Like the Toto dudes worked on Thriller, you know what I mean? Like it's just really interesting. Like if for the average music person, okay, that's Thriller, right? Beat It, Billie Jean, whatever. But and that's it. But if you're a music person and you're aware of Toto and and what have you, and then you realize, okay, like those guys were involved in with that album. It's just really interesting. I mean, and you could just sit down on your computer and sit there for days, just
Right.
finding out all this stuff, not just with Quincy Jones and the Luke, the Carl brothers or Luke, Steve Lukather or anything like that. I mean, it's just like everything. You know what I mean? I need to finish watching this documentary that I found on YouTube. It's about funk music.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot, like at the very beginning, they were interviewing somebody, and you probably watched this already, but they were I forgot who the musician was. He goes, "Name one funk song that's sad."
Right.
I can't think of any.
No, funk is not sad.
Yeah, yeah. It's all about having a good time and celebrating and what have you. And I need to finish watching that documentary. So, yeah, I'm a big funk person. That's just really interesting that you kind of developed this palette for jazz at a very young age. When like for most people, that's not the case.
Yeah, and I mean, jazz is like intertwined in my story. So the story as it goes, the way my parents really met. So my mom had like her own, I think, a jazz trio, and Ahmad Jamal was touring through Houston.
Okay,
with his trio, and my dad was the bassist in Ahmad Jamal's trio.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my dad played with Ahmad Jamal, kind of mostly live sets, kind of touring with Ahmad Jamal for several years. So when I told people that, they're like, "Whoa, man, that's crazy." Which is, I'm glad I can share that story with you.
Yeah, that is crazy.
I have so many things going on in my life now that I don't really get, when am I just going to tell, who's going to appreciate that?
Yeah.
Like,
I'll appreciate it.
Right. And the second thing, like, that's crazy, really? And I'm like, yeah, actually the crazier thing, to get into my, my dad's life story, he was playing jazz as a kid. He went into the military. He, basically his parents were like, you need to get your stuff together and go find a job or go in the military. You can't just keep playing music all the time. So he goes in the Air Force, goes to Germany, practices, comes back, still doesn't know what he's going to do. And he's back in Buffalo, New York. And it just so happens he'd been playing upright bass, for years.
Yeah.
Charles Mingus at the end of his life was like a professor, or kind of had taken a professor role because he was sort of, he was slowing down, he was getting sick. And so my dad was able basically to study under Mingus for a while. And he and Mingus had such like a good connection that Charles Mingus was like, "Hey, like I got this gig in the city. I can't take it. You should take it." So he then went and did that. And that's kind of what kickstarted his career. So there's not that many circles, like I feel like maybe in a bigger city, in New York or LA or other places, like there are a lot of people I can like tell that story to, and people are like, "Whoa." But walking around the street, everyday Austin, I'm like, you know who Charles Mingus is? Like a lot of people, like I have to go to the Butler School of Music and be like, "Hey everyone, do you know who Charles Mingus is?"
Yeah, that's huge, right? When you mentioned your dad joining the military, and like you said Buffalo, right? Yeah. I mean, there's like I had to look it up just to make sure, so I'm not wrong. But yeah, Rick James, he's from Buffalo, right? Yeah. He joined the military. Like I guess he joined the military because he like same thing with same kind of parallels your dad's life, where like parents or whatever. I don't know if his parents like forced him to join the military, but he joined like I believe the Navy. I don't know if he got kicked out, but then he comes back to like the United States or whatever, and becomes Rick James.
He became Rick James, and so because Rick James is from Buffalo, and I've asked my dad a couple times, I'm like, so y'all were both involved in music in the same city around the same time? My dad's like, yeah. Like, do you know him? He's like, kind of like, no comment. I'm like, okay. I don't know. And every time I'm like, he's only played upright bass. I'm like, Dad, you ever played electric bass? He's like, nah, no frets.
No frets.
Only
wow.
Only upright.
Wow. Who told me this? Did someone tell me this, or did I read about it? It was a hip hop. It was either an engineer or a hip hop producer guy who. I heard this story like well over 20 years ago, so my memory doesn't serve me well. But someone bought this mixing board, right? was a really nice mixing board, but it needed service, right? It needed to be cleaned out. And it turned out to be like, I think this mixing board that maybe Rick James owned
Oh,
or something
word.
like that. So when it needed to be refurbished and just things needed to be cleaned or
There's a
whatever.
lot of sketchy dust in under the.
Yeah. So when they cracked open the cover, right, to clean the faders and everything, there was like this like mad like coke and weed residue.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I was right.
You were exactly right. Oh, Rick James, man. Buffalo, New York, man.
Yeah, the one time when I asked my dad, well, one of the times I remember saying, he was like, man, he was talented, but he was kind of sick.
Yeah.
But I think it was the addiction.
Yeah. But then again, I mean, regardless of like whether you're a film director or a music producer or a musician, some of the best artists come from like the craziest people.
I mean, that's true, and also some of the greatest artists do have. Not endorsing anything, of course, but that there is a parallel between, we'll say, use of substances.
Oh no,
But also
no doubt.
sometimes also like mental health. Like that. Like some very rich bodies of art have come out of those processes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is interesting, but also we gotta take care of our artists and
1,000%. And this is Austin related. I just okay. I'm probably going to lose my Austin card for this, but I've always known about Daniel Johnston, right? And when I worked at Waterloo for forever, we sold his cassettes and what have you, but I went on a deep dive a while back about Daniel Johnston and about, just his story. There's a documentary on YouTube about him. And yeah, it was just his mental state.
Yeah.
And it's just, it was a very wild story, just his struggles. And I just loved his story because like this guy comes from, like I think West Virginia or something like that, or somewhere in the Midwest. And then he winds up working, like a carnival, like he works like some kind of like food trailer at a carnival, and he winds up being in Austin, Texas, and working at where is it at? He worked at the McDonald's on campus or something like that. Anyways, it's a very Austin story. But back to the mental health thing, like that, yeah, back then we weren't even focusing on that.
No, I mean it's actually amazing. Even like doing the Black History Backride stuff, like the language we have to talk about race is one thing, but also, these days, the modern way we talk about so many things, like in the last 10 years has changed so much. Even the last 10, 15, 20, it's completely changed. And it gives us the tools to, address mental health, for people to talk about their emotions and to be more honest and open about who they are or what they're going through.
Yeah.
And also, I think Austin does have a really supportive community of people. If you say like, I have this thing going on, can I talk to you about it? Or can you help me through this? Like, people are like, they're here for you,
Yeah. And I mean, there was a time when men don't talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't talk about going to a therapist, or you don't even talk to a therapist or talk about a therapist. You don't even talk about how you feel about things. Right. And now, I mean, I will tell people this openly anytime you want, ask me, like, yeah, I've seen the same therapist since 2011, and I think before that I maybe thought of, seeing a therapist like as being kind of like this, maybe not so much a weird thing, but having like at first telling a complete stranger about what's going on in your head.
Right.
Just anything and everything, right? And sharing that. And but now I wouldn't have it any other way. You know what I mean? Like, my relationship with my therapist, is fantastic. And I think where I'm at now, and like the way my life was in 2011 and the way my life is now, personally, professionally, I mean, it's night and day.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I and I'm, thank God we all live in a town that supports mental health, and we have organizations here, whether it's Sims or Ham or what have you. We have all these organizations.
There's How Are You Foundation.
Oh, they're
There's
there.
like one like for Daniel Johnson.
Yeah, and there's that as well. So, how lucky we are to live in this town, right? Like your bike ride, just I don't know. That's the thing about this town. As much as it changes, and like there's all these people moving here, and I say this all the time. I've said it a lot on this podcast where, we were kind of talking about this before the podcast about just people moving here or what have you. But the more it changes and like the population grows, what makes this city Austin to me is our music community, or just like there's. I guess our music community, we're all just really connected, right?
Yeah.
So there's something comforting about just seeing like all these folks that you've known for decades, right? And just how we all kind of support each other. And I'm just very grateful to live in this city.
Yeah. And like that touches on something like me and my homies in college. We started, it's before we even like, had the word, just like, we were basically like, I don't know, we like art, we like to party. And that turned into like, hey, like, why don't we, we all have different talented friends, like we're writing poetry, singing songs, visual art, all this. And, basically everyone was like 19 or 20. We sort of formed kind of like an artist collective. Again, not with, similar to Black History Backyard, not with like a huge goal. And that ended up becoming known as RAPA, which, did really well. But like the real goal was like, we have friends who are talented, and essentially we can kind of be like our own indie promoters, kind of like our own street team a little bit, and get people to come to shows. And, I was like 20 years old, like working on keg sponsorships from breweries, which felt pretty cool.
Yeah.
Be like, don't ask how old I am, but they do want to support our party.
Yeah.
But the whole intent was really like, back then even it was just like, let's create a space to like celebrate cool ideas, like cool music, cool poetry. And it was something that, we were in the middle of it, but, we would have these huge, really interesting art events and parties and stuff. And it's something that like, I hope people are still doing that, especially young people, but I hope people are like rallying around, like communities of people who are sharing interesting ideas.
Yeah.
Instead of artists feeling like, okay, like I make this sort of in a silo or with like the small group of people I know that do like the very similar thing. It's like we created something where it's like people that were working in lots of different mediums and different types of creative minded people could like meet up and have fun, but also like, share ideas. And we started like, we set up like special collaborative things. I did not come prepared to talk about that, but like we did so many things. And I was like almost 15 years ago now. And I'm like, whoa, I got a little bit of that here too.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things where it's like, I hope I'm existing at this, I'm going to be 37 next month, and I'm existing at the intersection of realizing so much has changed in terms of technology in my lifetime and in your lifetime and my lifetime, and even seeing that change, that I'm like, how is people growing up with TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram in their phones all the time, how is that like changing how we connect with art, connect with ideas? The fact that, not that you have to have a physical thing to hand someone or to connect, but it's like, is that changing how people like relate to creativity and then relate to other creatives?
Yeah. First off, you were mentioning about how you were doing these things when you were 19, 20. Just how carefree and just like, all right, you know what? I'm not even thinking about the outcome when you're that young. I just want to do it.
We're like, hey, this is cool. Let's do it.
Yeah. You're not thinking, okay, well, I've got rent to pay or whatever. You're like, we're doing this. I just remember like all the failed events and parties that I took a stab at when I was like 19, 20 here. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, yeah, I mean, many of them, right?
Oh, yeah.
And just sitting with my friends and coming up with this concept, and then reaching out to one of my flyer designer friends, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, and just going to Kinko's at 2 a.m. in the morning when we still had Kinko's in this town and it was 24 hours and getting the shit fucking printed, you know?
And then what, you go out with a staple gun and start like,
Exactly.
you start staple gun stuff up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to Magnolia Cafe in Kirby and throw that on the bulletin board. You know what I mean? Just that kind of stuff. Just that level of just kind of, I don't know, just, you know, like that level of, I just don't give a fuck and I just want to do it. Right.
Yeah.
It's just the best thing about being young. Right. But the other thing you brought up about technology and what have you, like, you know, and I'm seeing, and we've talked about this, you know, a number of times on this podcast about how there are folks that are like, okay, you know what? I want to have wired earbuds and I want a low res digital camera and I want to buy records, right? And I want to buy CDs and this kind of, you know, and what have you. You're starting to see folks that are just kind of, okay, everyone's going up, right? With all this technology. All right, I just want to go down.
Yeah.
I just want to live this lo-fi, low-res life. You know what I mean? And maybe it's a thing with like younger people, but I find it interesting. You know what I mean? And I wonder if, I don't know, part of me kind of wishes like, okay, maybe we'll go back to like, sitting down with somebody and actually having a conversation with them face to face as opposed to FaceTiming them or texting them. Or, you know, I'm actually going to find a graphic designer friend to print up flyers and I want to print actual flyers, right?
Yeah.
Which is unheard of now because
it seems kind of novel to print a flyer.
I know.
It's crazy.
It's wild, isn't it? Which is something that was just normal for me back in the day. You know what I mean? I kind of miss it, but then again, I don't, because I remember when I would print up flyers, it was wild. I would send like I would hire one of my graphic designer friends. And then he would work on it, and then I would proof it, and then I would just check it out, and then I would give him the okay, and then he would send it to some printer like somewhere in California.
Really?
And then this printer, it was like, and it was funny because you had all these options. Okay, it could be double-sided. What do you want? Do you want it to be glossy or do you want it to be matte? You know what I mean? And then the printer would send it back. Would send the big ass box to you, like on a plane, and you would have to go to Bergstrom to like this like.
Oh, you got to pick it from the freight.
Yeah,
like the freight shipping area.
Yeah, and it was a lot of it's a lot of flyers.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I did my part. You know, I would drop it off at every record store. I'd go to Kirby Lane. I'd go to Magnolia. I'd go to all these places, retail shops, whatever. Like, you know, all the skate shops and all the BMX spots in town. But I always would have a ton left over.
Yeah.
It's like that I don't miss.
Yeah, because then you're like, well, this literally has an expiration date.
Yeah. Not only that, you know, considering, you know, how it's not really good for the environment and you don't want to waste paper like that. But I kind of do miss that. You know what I mean? Because just having something tangible, like, I mean, it's really cool when I'm at home and I'm digging in my closet and I'm like, wow, look at all these flyers of these parties I used to throw.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like really cool, as opposed to like, okay, well, I have like this folder on my hard drive of, you know, just all these like JPEGs of flyers that, you know, just from the past 5 years.
Right.
It's really different.
Can you describe like maybe the craziest, maybe it doesn't have to be crazy, but like the most hype or like just like one of those events you threw that really like stands out to you?
That's a very good question.
I'm sure over the years, I'm sure there's like hundreds, right?
That's such a crazy question. Let me think. Okay, yeah. So my Rock the Casbah, this is like one of many, right? This is the one that really just kind of comes to mind here. Back in 2000, I had this idea, okay, like I want to throw an 80s party, but I don't want it to be this thing where I'm just playing 80s music. I want to manipulate the songs. I want to, you know, cut and scratch them and just have fun with, you know, just be technical with 80s music, which is, you know, at the time I mean, people were doing it, but not really, right? And I remember like things always like materialize after a breakup, right?
Sure.
It's kind of like this motivating thing here. And so I was like, it was a post breakup. It was like terrible. And I'm like, okay, I want to do this now. I want to throw this party and I want it to be 80s music and this, that, and the other. So, all right, I'm going to call it Rock the Casbah because it's a Clash song. The video, if you watch it on YouTube or whatever, they filmed it in Austin, Texas, and this, that, and the other. And so that's the significance of the name. And that's kind of like the story behind the name. And then I decided okay, I'm going to throw it at the Empanada Parlor, which is like over on East 6th where Easy Tiger used to be, right? And rallied all my friends together, right? Had a graphic designer friend design it, design the flyer. My other DJ friends helped decorate the room, right? I had no expectations. I was young. I'm like, I basically don't care if it fails, or it does well. I just want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just did it. And that party like was wall to wall people. I didn't even expect it, but just that exhilarating feeling of like, I didn't expect this. You know what I mean? And you're also young, like you've never experienced that where like, okay, wow, I conceptualized something and I actually did it, right? And like I actually acted on, I thought of this idea and I actually got off my ass and I did it and then threw it together and then here I am DJ and it's wall-to-wall people.
Yeah, it's like that. I mean, you've ever had that feeling where you're like, wow, I put this together and I accidentally slam dunked it. I didn't expect to do it that well, but you're like, whoa.
Yeah, and everything, even up till now, like anything that I'm involved in and that I try to do, I have no expectations at all. You know what I mean? So when things pop off or whatever, just that feeling. I mean, I'm sure you have that feeling about the bike ride. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you're just kind of like, you just step back and you're like, holy crap. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't expect this, right? I mean, I think that maybe there's part of you that hopes, that it does okay and that people will show up, like some people, right? But for it to turn into what it is now, right, is, I don't know. I would be I would be standing back. Like I would just take a step back and just kind of pinch myself, going like, "Man, this is for real."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So, back to Pearland and so, you listen to Jamiroquai or whatever. Did you ever like listen to the radio? Do you ever listen to like Michael Watts or whatever? And
oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
You
and like Houston rap shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah, especially in high school, like that was the sound of the streets of everything. People were banging screw in, the parking lot of the high school all the time,
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting because like, growing up here in Texas, I think that everyone's experience is different. That's the thing about Texans. We're not a monolith here. We're not just cowboy boots and cowboy hats or whatever. It's just a zillion things, right? And so I think a person growing up in Texas, or not Texas, but in Austin, their childhood is completely different from a kid that grew up in Houston musically. You know what I mean? My upbringing in my childhood, being a military kid and, living in Killeen is completely different from someone who lives in Dallas, right? It's just completely, my music consumption as a kid was not just one thing because I was surrounded by people that were like, and there were shit kickers, right? And then there were like, there were kids that listen to rap music, right? And then there was like, I had, a bunch of, kind of gothy friends that listened to just like, whatever, like new wave or whatever, and like Depeche Mode or the Smiths or whatever. And then, so clearly Austin didn't have, I mean, not Austin, but Killeen didn't have an identity musically.
No, yeah.
Yeah. Austin kind of, well, definitely does, right? Completely different from Houston. So you growing up in Houston, like, yeah, I mean, yeah, aside from your, you know, your jazz upbringing, like when you're like in high school and listening to, you know, Michael Watts, or, you know, you're listening to DJ DMD or whatever, or UGK, or, you know what I mean? Or, you know, ESG or whatever. I don't know. Like and like just having other friends from Houston, like that's the one thing they do all have in common, is that they love Houston rap music.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. I will say though, you know, growing up in Houston, I think it might have been, you know, the circumstances I was surrounded by, but you know, my love and appreciation for rap music was there in high school, but it got really deep in college.
No.
And yeah. I went from, you know, sort of growing out of the jazz funk to wanting to do more edgy things like many kids do. And I kind of went more in the like hardcore and punk route, sort of in my later, you know, like towards the end of high school. But also like, it's funny, like one of my favorite artists, like at the time was a band called Terra Mellis, which I guess you'd say is like a math rock, but like an experimental.
Yeah.
So it was like stuff like kind of still like stuff that, you know, my mom was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'm like, you don't know about this crazy guitar music, Mom. But, you know, and stuff like the Mars Volta and like stuff like that had that grit, because, you know, I was not, I was, you know, somehow also into the like, you know, kind of alternative rock music scene at the time. But it was also, you know, just character of your environment. Like that was on everywhere, as was, you know, all Michael Watts music and everything. If anything, being in Houston at that time in the early 2000s when I was going to high school, like that felt, you know, like Mike Jones felt mainstream. You turn on the radio, like Mike Jones is on every.
Yeah, that's true.
I almost like.
I always forget about that,
because like I liked like, you know, 28133 like that.
Yeah,
you couldn't escape that, and it was awesome. But like even then, my mind was like, you know, I want to find things that are more underground and more unique and different.
I always forget about that. That like, you know, Mike Jones and Chameleon. Yeah, that was mainstream.
And Paul Wall. Yeah, I mean, like literally that was what was on the radio, which is actually an amazing thing because it's all local.
Yeah.
You know, like it was all pretty much all local artists, you know?
And what's interesting about Houston and about that era of like Houston rap is that it hasn't really been able to kind of replicate that level of success since.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. But, you know, when you mentioned the Mars Volta, like, you know, just El Paso, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not, you know, like the biggest Mars Volta fan, and that's not because I don't like them. It's just I just was never like a big Mars Volta fan. But one of the guys in that group is kind of what is he? I think his wife or whatever. One of the guys from Mars Volta, like, kind of was a Scientologist. Right?
Oh, really?
And she left the church. So her and one of the guys from Mars Volta are like these big kind of like anti like Scientology people, where they're just like trying to kind of expose like this, like the Church of Scientology. It's just like really interesting. Like I'm like, wow, like when did that happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was not aware of that at all.
Yeah, it's wild. And it's interesting that it's like right across the street from the university. You walk past it or drive by it all the time. You're like, whoa, look at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like a constant and an ever-changing Austin, where it's just, it'll always be there.
They're there. Yeah, they're there. Have you seen the kids? I guess it's a TikTok challenge. I've only seen one or two of them, but it's like, I think they put on like the meta glasses, and there's a name for it, but they essentially...
Oh, they try
to run in and see how far they can
get into a Scientology like church.
Yeah.
Wow.
Without checking in or doing whatever you have to do, which for anyone listening, I probably wouldn't recommend. I wouldn't be doing that. But
yeah, no,
I don't know. You know, like I feel like if your faith is a good one, you don't have anything to hide. You shouldn't have.
Yeah, totally. It's just I find it interesting, but so I mean. So by the time you got to college, I mean, your musical palette was pretty wide.
It was pretty stacked. I started playing guitar at a pretty young age. Not that I've ever been very good at it, but that's kind of where my, kind of, I would say probably inspired by a lot of the jazz and blues guitarists I grew up around. So I think that's what the path towards like, you'd call it like rock music, punk music, kind of heavier music, felt very aligned with what a lot of other, I could go find people to go play metal and hardcore with. But then also that kind of turned into like more of a songwriter focus of, my mom actually did kind of run in a scene with people who were more of like, say like Townes Van Zandt level songwriters or folks like that. And so for me, it was like all around, just interesting, we'll call it interesting guitar decisions.
Right.
Like playing guitar in really interesting ways. So that's what consumed a lot of my brain space. And then once I got to college, and you start really, it was like there were just so many different ways to be exposed. We had Kazaa and LimeWire,
I haven't heard that word Kazaa in so long. Holy moly!
And I remember like that being, because that was something that my mom, we was not allowed to have that on the computer. But like once I got to high school or college, like everyone was, I'd be like, hey, can you help me get this? Can you help me get this? It was so easy to get. Any any digital media at the time, which is funny. And that's when I almost wish I had brought my old my iPod from like 2009.
So you still have it?
I still have it. I was
sick.
actually driving here. I brought something else that's close, but I still have it. And I was like, I should have brought it, because like that's where like my musical taste really exploded. Because when I look through it now, I'm like, you've got like dubstep, and you've got trap music, and then you've got old school like Run DMC, and then you've got AFI, and it's like one of those things where I was like, I really appreciated that I was very much a fan of so many different musical influences, and that the old iPod, you could just put all those in one spot and be like, check me out. Like, look at how weird I am. Like,
dude. What's so funny was when you were you just talking about it, you were doing the circle,
you're like,
the touch wheel thing.
Yeah,
that just never goes away.
It
right?
doesn't. Yeah,
I still have my iPod. It's sitting on my coffee table. I wonder if it still holds a charge.
Mine, like it'll hold a charge maybe for an hour or so. Like, but if I'm using it, which it hasn't been recently, but if I just keep it plugged in, but I don't think you can find. If I needed a replacement charger, I might have to like order it off Temu or something like.
I need to. Yeah, I'm definitely. You know what? I'm going when I get home. I'm going to charge it. And do I have a? Yeah, I do have some wired headphones.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna get some PTSD listening to some of it. Like, we're like, okay, this is triggering. But
no, when you listen, I'm like, what? Okay.
Yeah. Did I really listen to that?
Was I listening to that? Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it's wild.
That's kind of what I mean. Not to cut you off. That's what I was talking about. Of like this confluence of like changing technology and being like, like moving from just having CDs to having an iPod and being like, wow, I can fit 10,000 CDs on this thing that goes in my pocket.
I know.
And now the fact that little thing that was so transformative and magical, nobody thinks about those anymore.
Yeah,
you all have iPhones, and you have, Spotify, Apple Music, whatever.
It's almost like a dead technology in a way, right?
Yeah.
With that little gadget, the iPod, it represented at least when I was here at the record store, it posed like this existential threat for this store.
Yeah.
Because at the time, like, everyone was just going crazy with it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to go on iTunes. I'm going to go buy an iPod, and I'm just going to go crazy. I'm going to go on LimeWire, and I'm going to download all this stuff. And at the time, like, the powers that be here at Waterloo were like, uh-oh. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was definitely something that worried, like, that was like that worried a lot of folks here at the record store. And so, I mean, now look at it now, like everyone's all about buying physical media, you know, and iPods are kind of like a thing of the past, which is really wild, but it's just wild.
Yeah. I mean, people still want tangible ways to support. And once you realize like what, the artists are getting paid through streaming, like that is such a great tangible way. And, when I had my dream job at Tito's and was very fortunate through my job at Tito's to go to so many music festivals and see so many artists live.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I didn't have to pay. It was part of the job. I went for free. That kind of became, I was like, I love this artist and I just got to see them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go buy, like I'd come back here to Waterloo, like when I'm back, I'm like, or sometimes even in the city, like I've come back from Lollapalooza with like so many times with like 8 records. Like I'm in the store, I'm like having a good time. And I'm like, oh snap. I got to fly back with these.
I know. That was what, like, where was I? Yeah, when I was in Denver recently, and I went to Wax Trax Records, which is a store I've always wanted to go to. And I think the universe was looking out for me because I had every intention on buying a bunch of records, right? But the day that I got there, they were having a huge wrap-in store. So like it was so funny. Like I took I was in this black SUV, like an Uber, and that's what I took to get to the record store. And there was this super long line of kids.
Really?
And I pulled up to the record store and I got out of the car and everyone's like, oh my God, is so-and-so in the car with you? And I'm like going like, who? You know what I mean? I forgot the rapper. God, my memory's so bad. But anyways, I'm like, no, he's not with me. You know what I mean? Like, I guess they were thinking I was part of like the crew or whatever. So I walk into the record store and I'm like, why is everyone waiting in line? Like, oh yeah, we're about to have this big in-store. I mean, there were hundreds of kids.
Nice.
So I said, well, how long, when is the in-store? In 30 minutes. I'm like, all right, I have 30 minutes to look around. That's
Right.
not a lot of time at a record store.
No,
right?
no.
So thank God I only had 30 minutes because I would have bought a bunch of records. And like you were just saying, I got to fly back with it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I hate that. Because I'm so OCD with my records, I don't want to bend the corners.
Yeah,
I don't want to
man,
break the
man.
records.
Yeah.
It's just so bad. So speaking of record stores, did you ever go to record stores in Houston?
You know what? Honestly, no, I didn't. My record collecting kind of habit started here.
Okay.
Honestly, though, when I was 18, I didn't have enough money for records. It was all burnt CDs.
Yeah.
I was unfortunately on the LimeWire.
No, that's totally cool. And I think you're probably the first guest to say that, because a lot of the folks that we've had on this podcast are older. So
Yeah.
their first experience with like consuming music and obtaining it is going to a record store.
Right.
And you being younger, you are a kid of you are a kid of technology. You were exposed to that. So yeah. LimeWire, Kazaa.
But I think the beauty in that, I mean, there's obviously like pros and cons, right? But the beauty of that is that that iPod I have has a wild, interesting variety of music, and a lot of it is like independent, music from independent artists.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, through happenstance, if I did have to pay for all of that music at the time, I would not be able to afford it. And I would,
1,000%. Yeah, same.
And perhaps that has inspired now my record collection that my wife is like, do you really need more records? And I'm like, yes, I need these.
Yeah.
I need this one and two. And I'm not as crazy about it as I was. I'm so crazy about it. I'm just like respectful of the fact that, yes, we only have so much room in the house for so many records.
Yeah, that's always interesting. I definitely now, like, it's really interesting when I walk into here, into the record store here, the level of restraint that I have, because like, years ago I would have been like, okay, you know what? Like, I'm going to dig for records first and then we'll do the podcast. But now it's like, I walk in here, sit with the guests, do our thing, and then I'm out of here. I don't really, because I'm aware that I have a ton of music at home that I haven't really listened to yet. Right. I mean, we just had, a record convention back in May here, at the Palmer Event Center. And I bought like a significant amount of music.
Yeah.
And I was literally thinking about this last night. I'm like, dude, don't forget that you bought a bunch of records and cassettes at the Austin Record Convention and that you need to listen to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I would qualify that with, I think if you've ever had the experience, as I have had at least once, and I was like, maybe a year or two ago, where I bought something I was excited about and I came home and I listened to it and I was like, all right, cool. And I was flipping through a couple weeks later, I was like, oh, snap. I already had I have two now.
Yeah. It
But when I was
happens.
like,
It
it does
happens.
happen, and there's nothing wrong with that. I was like, yeah, I need to like catalog and index my collection. My index or everything is cataloged by vibes,
Yeah. Yeah.
but not by genre or alpha. It's just like what it's an odd assortment. So
Yeah. 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 I mean, I tried to kind of organize my records at home. Like the records that are actually in my house that are in shelves, yeah, they're kind of organized by genre, but all the years of DJing or whatever, like I have tons of records in the garage. Like, dude,
Mhm.
I don't even want to go there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like so I just focus on the records that I have in the house or whatever, and there's just basically no rhyme or reason. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so I see those shelves and little record bins that I have that are full now. So I definitely keep that in mind where I'm not gonna go bananas and you know buy a bunch of records while I'm here, right? Because I definitely have space is an issue, and also there's a bunch of stuff I haven't even listened to yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what else was going to ask you about? What was the first show big, like not big show, but first show that you went to, like a first concert where you actually heard and felt amplified music?
That's a very good question because I don't have a good answer. Maybe I do have a good answer. The answer,
I know that you went to jazz, like your parents, the jazz shows, right? There's that, and then your mom being, just being a production gal.
if we're talking
right?
about first time I felt music,
Mm.
the story is that when I was like maybe 2 or 3, my mom, we were getting ready to go somewhere. My mom put me in the car seat, and I think the radio was on in the car or something. She had like the AC going or something. And this was like probably 94 or something like that. And I was in the car seat and I was like, Mama, this is that song you play all the time. And my mom was like, no. And I was like, I don't know how old, but I was in the car seat and I was like, yeah, this is the song you play a lot. And my mom was like, I haven't played this song since I left, the band I was in when I was pregnant. Like I played that song with that band, but I've not played that because after I had you, didn't have time to be in that band.
Mm.
And that's a story that my mom tells people all the time where I'm like, first time I felt music was like in the womb. And I need to ask her what song that is because I can't remember. It might be like Dolphin Dance or something. But it's a jazz. It's kind of like a jazz standard.
Yeah.
But there's that, there's another time when my mom was throwing the blues festival that she was actually performing, and it was at the Miller Outdoor Theater in Houston.
Okay.
If you've been there, it's down there in Herman Park, like kind of the big thing, and really interesting, structure and building, like huge outdoor amphitheater. But she like maybe also when I was 3 or 4 or 5, like I had like this single tom drum, and she was, I think, playing some avant-garde jazz thing and just had me on the side of the stage just like banging on the drum. So that's kind of like a core memory of, like growing up, I guess, in a very musical situation, but without even realizing it. If you had asked me when I was a little kid, I would have thought all little kids do stuff like that. Yeah. But no, it was a product of my mom being, a lifelong jazz pianist.
Yeah. Man, yeah. How fortunate for, to have parents like that, just to have the musicians, right? And then also just being musicians and being jazz musicians for them, just for you, just to be able to just by osmosis, just being that close, right? As a kid, when there's a lot of people most people don't get to experience that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because I think about my parents, they're definitely not jazz musicians, but I definitely, I definitely recall what they would listen to at home and in the car, and how that influenced me, and how some of it was a little cringy, right? But overall, it kind of just shaped my musical palette, So, speaking of jazz music, did you ever like get into any of like the 90s hip hop that was influenced, like jazz was a big influence, like Tribe Called Quest.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
and-
I think, I think that, and I think that's like, like not growing up in New York and not growing up, in Houston where we were, it was just like Houston rap. Right. So, I think like when I moved here, and I was probably still 18 or 19 once I like really got into Tribe.
Yeah.
And then just really got into a lot of other, like music that was coming out of New York at the time. It was like mind altering, mind blowing,
Yeah.
amazing.
Right. I love Tribe Called Quest. I think it was basically, just the two things that I love: jazz music and hip hop. Just right. Just up until a couple weeks ago, that's all I listened to was Tribe for like the longest. I don't know why. I think when I listen, it's interesting because like, I do listen to music at home, but I don't listen to music in the car. I listen to a lot of podcasts in my car.
Yeah.
That seems to be kind of the thing now. And the reason why I don't listen to music in the car as much is because just the traffic in this town and the way people drive, like, just ruins it for me. Like when I'm like vibing out, to like, Can I Kick It by Tribe, and then all of a sudden someone swerves in front of me. I'm like, okay, you know what? I can't do this anymore.
Right.
So I'm just gonna listen to someone talk or whatever. But Tribe and like Gangstar and just you mentioned Prairie View, DJ Premier. He went to Prairie View. So
really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I just love all that stuff. And God, I can only imagine what it would have been like just having parents that were jazz musicians. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just really, really cool.
It was a very colorful upbringing. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
But I'll say this, and I won't say much more. If you are a musician, I would start your IRA.
No, 1,000.
Start saving, please, at whatever age you are. At least in the for some musicians, as I have had some exposure to, it never hurts, even as a creative person, to start saving for the future. And I'm not saying that because I work for Fidelity. I'm just saying that because at least for a lot of my parents, but really like their friend, it's a systemic, like living in the moment for so long is beautiful and amazing. And sometimes I'll be like, Mom, didn't you kind of get that big contract with this? And she's like, yeah. And then I just bought more gear. And it's one of those things that never hurts to put a little money away in an IRA account just to help for the future, because that you won't regret that. You'll regret it right when you do it, but you won't regret it later.
Yeah, that's a very, very common thing, right? Especially in 2026, where especially here in Austin, well, not just in Austin, just everywhere,
yeah,
where the affordability is an issue. How can you remain creative and do the thing that you love and be able to keep the lights on and pay the rent and eat?
Right.
I think about that not only for myself, but just all my musician friends, all my music production friends. I mean, you and I have a lot of mutual friends in that world where it's like, man, you know what I mean? I just wish the highest for all of them, and they can maintain living here in Austin, Texas, and continue to do what they do creatively, and also be able to, like you just said, maybe save.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something I feel like a lot of even my close friends in the creative community like aren't as attuned maybe to thinking about, and it's wild. It's wild. So maybe
that's something you should like kind of maybe advocate, you know what I mean? And like
I'll start
maybe
another nonprofit.
Just kind of like financial literacy or just kind of some type of awareness, because man, I mean, I think most musicians, not all, but I'm just saying that I'm sure there are a significant amount of DJs and musicians that aren't thinking that way.
Yeah.
And it's scary. It's really interesting when you see these stories all the time online where you see like a famous musician or like a person, like an actor that was really like a child actor that was really popular in the 90s or the 80s, and now they're an Amazon delivery person,
Right.
or something like, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But just also just maybe even in, or like they're, I don't know. How do I word it? I mean, I don't know if like, homeless or unhoused or whatever, but you just hear stories of like,
Yeah.
whether it's that they just burn through their money, or, we were talking about just kind of, we were talking about like, yeah, like substance abuse and alcoholism and all this
Yeah.
kind of stuff where, or mental health kind of affects that, right?
Yeah, it does. And also it kind of goes like what we're saying. Like, I think the language, maybe that's, technology's ups and downs. I think, we talked about the language for mental health and substance abuse earlier, but also like personal finance.
Yeah.
I think there are more resources and more ways to learn about those things. It's more accessible. I feel like it seems like 20 years ago. I mean, also I was a kid, but it seemed like if you had all that stuff already set up, you had a financial advisor or something, you would go talk to them and they would set you up if you already had that. But now anyone has the power to kind of, start small and learn how to like save for the future. And that's something that I mainly preach about because, seeing my, one of my parents and other people in her life go through it, I'm like, whoa. And I was fortunate, really with that role at Tito's. I'm very thankful for my time there and for Tito and Lori. And, like they had things in place to teach the employees like kind of some financial literacy if you wanted to go in that direction. And that, it just takes, I think, someone investing and spending some time where you realize like, this is how a retirement account works.
Yeah.
And, don't bank on just getting famous. Don't bank on getting famous. That's what, in terms of artists, it seems like, if every 10 artists out of every 10, like, 8 plan to do that. And then, like things unfortunately don't always pan out. So,
yeah. Well, I think that's kind of a void that needs to be filled.
Yeah.
I think that there needs to be something like someone or something that kind of, make it more front facing and something that's more accessible where I don't know, because I know for a fact that DJs and a lot of musicians don't think about that.
Yeah.
And if they don't see it, they're not thinking about it. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind, head in the sand or whatever. But if there was like this presence where, or this entity that was kind of advocating and kind of showing the way for musicians and creatives to be literate, and to be very aware and about their financial future in investing or whatever, I think that would be huge,
right?
Because you don't see that. Dude, you're the first person that's brought it up like ever.
Yeah.
I don't see that online. I don't see people talking about that.
Yeah. Maybe I'll start like a financial literacy bike ride.
Dude.
Just kidding. But I do think, I mean, part of me that this gets to a bigger thing and, not to go in the weeds, but it's like, why don't more people know, like why is that financial literacy something you feel like you have to eke out and dig out?
Because it's not, because it's, at least to me, it's not sexy, right?
It isn't.
And then second, financial literacy and like in mental health are completely two different things, right? I think that mental health is like, it's like, okay. Like for the longest time, mental health and talking about a therapist, whatever, that was in the shadows for a long, long time. And I think maybe financial literacy for creatives and musicians is kind of like in the shadows, like, kind of in the same place mental health was.
Yeah, I think so. But also, I guess like part of me is like, there's the bigger, not to say there's a shadowy figure, but it's like, I feel like the more people who are aware of that, then they stop, giving the extra $100 or $200 a month they could have saved for themselves to something else or somewhere else,
Yeah.
Like, part of me just feels like, it feels like there's a reason why financial literacy isn't just something that's like taught in high school, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so like all kids are equipped. I remember graduating high school and being like, I think I know how to sign a check, you know?
No
but like
no
even,
doubt.
even, you know, when
No
I'm like
doubt.
18, I'm like, well, I
Yeah.
have a checkbook, but
Yeah.
where do I put my name? You know, stuff like that, where it's like, obviously, you like if you come from a side of society where that happens all the time, you just know. Or, you know, if you have like, you know, if you are fortunate that your family, like I had no idea this existed until I was 25. Like some people's families just have financial planners. They just call them, right? But, you know, if you start from somewhere with very little, you won't even know that, hey, I can set up an independent retirement account. Oh, other people are talking to someone helps them manage their you know, like I think when you come up, as many artists do, and many people probably who are working class, you just think like, okay, cool, like, wow, I finally have some money. Let me put it in my savings account. And you don't even realize you got a high yield savings account. You got all these other things.
Yeah.
All these other, you know, there are all these ways for you to basically, you know, protect and support yourself for the future.
Right. Yeah, I think there's this potential opportunity for something, right? A lot of people don't have that luxury of having a financial advisor. You know, to bring up, you know, like Texas, right?
Right.
You know, and its athletics, you know, you're seeing these, you know,
exactly.
You're seeing these like athletes name the sport, right? Men's basketball, football, especially football, where, you know, these kids are getting NIL money, and it's not like, okay, you're getting a couple $1,000s. No, I mean, these guys are like earning $1 million or more or whatever, and I think maybe they have something like that at Texas.
I believe there is, like, I think they do.
They have advisors there, and then I think also maybe if you're lucky to wind up going pro playing football, that there's things in place to teach, like, you know, these young adults, okay, all right, dude, chill out on the spending, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I mean, listen, if you're 18, 19,
you ain't thinking that way.
Like, I could only imagine what I would do, but I mean, just remember, you know, like if you any amount of money over 5 figures, I mean, even 5 figures is life changing if you do the right thing with it, which is not, again, it's not the sexy thing.
Yeah,
it is probably saving it. I mean, also, you know, paying off debts, helping out your family. There's a lot of that, but you're right. I mean, there's just so many stories of so many athletes who are so talented and they work so hard, and without the right support in place, I mean, it's the same thing as artists. It's similar. Maybe, you know, like it's similar. Like the financial literacy needs to be baked into, like, kids who are in junior high should at least be aware that there are options and tools. You know, because like once you start making $1 million, like, I think when you're that age, you're like, well, I just made $1 million. I'll probably make another $1 million next year, whatever. And if you get injured, you know, you can spend $1 million in a month or two. Like, it's not hard if you want to, you know?
And a lot of these athletes come from, like, you know, places where, you know, they're, you know, there's no privilege.
Yeah.
Right. They don't come from money. Right. And so you go from nothing to $1 million, right? You're just like,
right. What do I do now?
Yeah, your mind is just blown. You know what I mean? You made it, and then you just go crazy with it, right? You're not really thinking about. I just remember the first time I ever made a decent amount of money DJing, right? And I just remember going, holy crap! All right, I'm gonna go buy me a brand new DJ mixer, and I'm just gonna go crazy with it, right?
Yeah.
You're not thinking about, okay, maybe I need to tuck away. Maybe I should listen to my mom, which is something my mom always does. Even to this day, she's just like, you need to put that away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, dude, she is on me about that, right? And but when you're young and you've never had money, it's really hard to think that way. It really, really is.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I guess that's, you know, it would, going back to that, you know, not to make this whole thing about financial literacy, it's amazing that we feel like we see it so much. Maybe that's just being the age we are, but both for artists and, you know, athletes, it's like there's so much opportunity.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. All right. So, you know, let's change gears and let's talk about show and tell.
All right.
So what did you bring
I might.
today?
I'm probably gonna get in trouble for this. Don't embarrass me.
You're never going to get in trouble.
All right. So
Uh-oh.
this isn't.
Is there a head in that?
It turns out this isn't what I think is the full collection. I didn't exactly go through all of this, but this is actually a deconstructed view of my high school and college CD
Holy
collection.
crap.
So
Okay, so what's
these are probably the main. There's some Jamiroquai. There's some stuff in there, and then
Okay, so these burn CDs?
a lot of them are.
Okay.
Some of them are originals.
Okay, cameras. There's not much to look at here because they're just like CDs and burn CDs in cases, but it's significant because.
I would say. I mean, a lot of those are real, legit CDs.
Oh, are they?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So how does one open this? That's tricky.
Oh yeah, that one's got the Mingus in there on the top.
Okay, so wow, what an interesting CD case.
Dude, listen, I don't
Yeah.
know. That probably came from the Dollar General or something.
No, that's
Okay,
really
right.
cool. No, I like it. So yeah, this particular CD case, folks, the first CD is Charles Mingus, right? So Elijah will superimpose a graphic of this particular album on the video.
It's likely I'll embarrass myself if you go.
No,
through,
you
through
won't,
everything
dude. I
here.
don't judge people on their, like it's.
Well, your viewers do though. Come on.
I don't know about that. Okay, so
Let me see.
here's a Jamiroquai CD, "Emergency on Planet Earth."
Yeah, and then here's Cosmic Girl. So I would also get the single. So this is like the Cosmic Girl.
Oh wow.
Also Jamiroquai. I was like, let me bring like my favorite Jamiroquai album. And I was like, I don't
Yeah.
have time to figure out.
You are definitely a kid of the aughts.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? With CDs and the selection, right?
Yeah.
This is
And I mean, sorry, Waterloo Records for all the burnt CDs.
no, it's all good, dude.
Um,
Yeah, look at this is. Wow, this is like the this is the CD single for Cosmic Girl, and there's multiple mixes. I almost want to take this, just like
borrow it and give it back.
and copy it. Wow. So Elijah, when you're doing your magic in post, this is the CD single for. This is Jamiroquai CD single for Cosmic Girl, and there's 5 different mixes. Wow, this
Yeah,
is
some of those
sick,
are,
bro. And oh, dude, this is even better, dude.
Super funky.
So here's another one. So here's Black Flag,
Oh yeah.
Damaged. So sick,
Yeah, there's stuff from like different eras because I've got like
dude.
Pink Floyd.
So
Here's like a burnt Dan Deacon.
oh,
album
dope.
on here.
God, so early 2000s.
Super duper early 2000s.
Dude, that's so cool. Man, I think you'll appreciate this. Like, I went on this HR Bad Brains rabbit hole just recently, and I didn't realize that this kind of touches on everything we've already talked about. Just his mental health issues
Oh yeah.
and just kind of how it kind of dictated the direction of his career.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? When he just early on, just watching that live video of like, I think it's in 82, 81 at CBGB's, and when they were just full on, like just aggressive, right?
Yeah.
To what? And then he was just like, I don't want to do that anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even want to touch it. And then he would just his mental health issues and just how it had just affected his career.
Right. Yeah.
It was just really interesting because like Bad Brains, like at their peak was just, I can't get enough of it. You know what I mean? Watching that video from CBGB's, like, dude, it's just like, I don't know. It was really cool. And just a story, just being from DC and, and what have you. It was just really, really, really cool, and just how incredibly influential, but also just him struggling mentally, was really just something I kind of knew, but didn't really know until recently.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to know more about that. I wasn't.
You should watch it. Dude, it was really interesting. It was just something he didn't address forever.
Yeah.
There'd be times when he'd be at a show, like he'd be on stage and then he would just walk off.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You would be like 10 minutes into a set. And he's like, eh.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until he found a partner, you know what I mean? And he got married where his wife was like, all right, dude.
We got to work on some stuff.
Yeah. We're going to get you to a doctor. You know what I mean? We're going to figure out what's going on. Not only was it mentally, it was also something physically that was wrong with him that like made him just kind of go off into the deep end.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a really interesting story. And the documentary is on YouTube, and I think you would like it. You should watch that. Folks listening, you should watch it as well. But also just watching the vintage footage or of them performing at CBGB's in the early 80s. Like, dude, it's like mind blowing. Just kind of like
love to see that.
Super DIY, just like, no internet. We're talking DIY for real, right? It was really interesting to see, but
I think that's something. Kind of going back to the Black History part, so many people don't realize like Bad Brains are so influential on so many other punk bands because an early punk band, and like the Black contribution. There have been Black contributions to so many like legendary and popular music forms, but when you talk to many people, they say like, "Oh, I'm in the rock and punk music." And they're like, well, isn't that kind of a white thing?
Exactly.
Well, actually, Thin Lizzy and Bad Brains and like all the legacy of like actually, when you really dig into it, we've been involved in so many things that but now it doesn't seem like we're acknowledged enough. So shout out to that.
No, we're not. They're like Bad Brains is just mad influential. And you think about all like, I was just reading up on Fishbone. And that's another band. And just a band that I love, and it was just their story is interesting as well, right? And there's like bands like Living Color, and there's just tons of bands, right, that were incredibly influential that people don't think about because they're not white,
right?
You know what I mean? So, so what else did you bring in?
This can go. We could probably do a whole 2 hours just on this.
So let's grab a couple more. So,
what else have we got here? So speaking of, I did find this, and this is a really interesting. Speaking of mental health,
so what is this?
I don't know if you remember this dude. He passed away a few years ago. His name was Sasquatch Dave.
So this is Sasquatch Dave. So Elijah, hopefully you can find this online and get an image of this somewhere.
He was a very colorful person who definitely had some mental health struggles, but he was essentially like someone who was on the drag when I was in undergrad, like 2008, 2009, 2010. And he always like had a funny sign and like a clown nose or something. But as a college kid, we just get to talking to this dude, and he released an album. But he kind of, it felt like, sort of like a local version of, someone in Austin keeping it weird, but kind of like a Daniel Johnston.
Yeah, sure.
Type person. And sadly he passed away a few years ago. But, then I was a talent buyer, kind of towards my end of college, like doing all the art collective stuff.
Yeah.
I was a talent buyer, and then ended up like with so many local, like these are some friends of mine, just CDs from like local artists. Here's Speak. I don't know if you remember them.
Sphinx.
Final Exam, some other friends of mine.
What is the title? A Raspberry Wine by Sphinx.
Here's another one. I'm actually on the cover of this one.
Oh, this is you.
Yeah, that's me. But yeah,
what is that? A katana? What is that?
Some kind of, looking at that now, I'm like, I don't know. Oh,
what would you call that?
We got the Subculture Patriots.
Sphinx, Human Beast. Such a throwback. Wow. 2011.
And there were a lot of things in here. Oh, I love this. That was a great album.
So this is the Subculture Patriots, right? And this is is this a group, right?
Yeah, a local Austin hip hop group.
Local Austin hip hop. Volume 1, Issue 1. Not sure if Elijah will be able to find this online. But if you do find it, please, superimpose it onto the video and post. Final Exam. So these are bands that you booked.
Yeah, but the Final Exam, those are homies of mine.
Yeah.
Little Low, also homies of mine. And in like the 2010 era, like these were like the local bands that people were, talking about.
Yeah.
And Austin Chronicle and stuff like that, which is amazing. And also, it's funny. Like I threw all this in here several years ago, and because I was like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna listen to this stuff again. Like maybe like 10 years ago, and now I'm like, wow, it's like I have my own little archive.
Yeah, dude. Don't ever get rid of this stuff.
Yeah.
Little Low, A Poison Tree, another local act. Very cool.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, here. Hopefully this isn't. We'll see how that is. This is the Jamiroquai Light Years single with all the different cuts. That one.
Oh, wow.
That one goes really hard.
So, yeah, this is a CD single for Light Years.
Here they are.
Wow, there's multiple mixes, and then there's a B-side, Hail the Man. Is it Half the Man? Okay.
So.
Tight.
And then here are the rest of these. So I feel like there are probably 4 or 5 that are missing. I had like literally every Jamiroquai album. I would like ask my mom, and she would like order these singles for me.
That's so cool that your mom did. This is very cool.
She was into it. She literally bought me like every Jamiroquai album.
Here's a single for Canned Heat, CD single, 2 cuts.
Very famous.
7-inch edit.
As really, kind of popularized by.
Yeah. Deeper Underground. Wow. Yeah, that's very cool. Proof positive. Like this is proof that you were a Jamiroquai fan.
Nerd. As a child. But Deeper Underground was off the Godzilla movie.
Was it?
Yeah, that was like that was like one of the title. When the movies had like a title song, that was like the single that they wrote or released.
Was that the first Godzilla movie? Who knows?
I can't remember.
Who knows?
It was whatever, released probably around 2000.
Yeah, so. I saw it online. I saw some random. I forgot. It was a band that you would never expect to be on a Godzilla soundtrack. I forgot the name of the band. Not the name of the band, but I forgot who mentioned it online. I forgot which band, but I'm like, wow, you were on the Godzilla soundtrack.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that movie. That was, because as a kid, I was really big into like the old Japanese Godzilla movies, with the dude in the Godzilla suit, you know what I mean? I just was into that when I was a kid. So, very cool, man. I'm glad that you brought all the Jamiroquai CDs and the bands that you booked back in the day. I really like the little case that you have.
Yeah, I think I got this at probably at a yard sale. I think in college. I think I just thought it looked cool, and I think it was probably $5. So turns out it works really well as a CD case. And then speaking about having too much extra physical media, that looks like it's pretty good. So probably in 2010.
Yeah.
Or I think this was. So I made
2010, dog.
It's just called Winter Mix.
Yeah.
I don't know what's on it. It probably reflects whatever cute girl or girls I was trying to talk to at the same time. But
no doubt.
I have at least 5 or 6 extras, so I was gonna.
You gonna give this to me?
Yeah, you can.
Dude,
I don't remember what the track list is.
Dude, do you have a CD player at home?
I don't.
Oh, okay, I actually do because I'm a fucking nerd. So.
I don't. I do have a tape. I have 2 tape players.
Well, there you go.
And a vinyl player. Yeah.
Dude, that's dope. Okay, so let me talk about what I brought. I'll keep it brief. Oh, where the hell did I put it? Dude, this was really difficult for me to even take out of the house because I was just worried something's going to happen to it, and it's raining outside, and it's one of those things where I don't even keep it. I keep it in a dark room, and because I don't want it to fade or whatever.
I'm getting excited. What is this?
So
am I going to be like blinded?
No. So I don't know if you will. This is an autograph photo of DJ Screw.
Oh, word.
Yeah. So I know that I've shown this a lot of times on social media. There's an interesting story behind this. So back in the 90s, I was marketing promo guy I had my own independent company. So I worked for multiple record labels. Big Time Records that Screw was on. I also worked for Delicious Vinyl. I worked for Columbia Records. I worked for Immortal Records, to name a few, right? But the story behind Big Time was like back in the day, I would just call all these rap labels and go, hey, my name is Mel. This is what I do. I'll do whatever I can on a street level to promote your artist, right? I will go to radio. I mean, I have a wide network of mix show DJs in Dallas, Houston, San Antonio. Also, a network of record stores and lifestyle shops where I can seed product and get the word out there, right? And so I just cold called like Big Time Records in Houston back in the day, and I started talking to a guy named Russell Washington, who is no longer with us. Rest in peace. But anyways, there were just a number of artists that Big Time Records had, like I think was it ESG or PSK 13, and then also this one guy that was kind of doing his thing, and his name was DJ Screw. And so Russell sent me this photo. And what was interesting about this photo was, for the longest time, I thought I had lost it in a move, right? When you move, you lose things. And during the pandemic, I was on like one of the many Zoom calls I was with like all my friends, and we were just talking about just random stuff, and we started talking about DJ Screw, and I'm like, you know what? Let me dig around real quick. I thought I completely lost it. I think we were talking about flyers. So I have like this notebook or this album full of flyers that of the events I used to throw. And so I grabbed the album, okay, and I brought it back into the studio, and all my friends are on Zoom, and I'm like, yeah, check this out. This is like a party that I threw back in the day, or this is a rave I DJ'd at back in the day. And I was thumbing through this album, and I found the photo. I thought it was gone forever. I thought someone took it or whatever. And dude, the feeling that I had when I found this, I was like so happy.
So happy.
Yeah. And I bought a frame for it. I went super nerdy, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy this special glass for this photo that protects it from UV rays, so none of it fades.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And here we are. And when I got this photo from Russell at Big Time Records in Houston, I was like, okay, screw. All right, I'm just gonna promote his stuff, and he's part of his label. Cool. Here we are in 2026, and like this guy, how incredibly influential this man is.
Mm-hmm.
How he
insane.
Incredibly influential. And like on June 27th, yeah, I listened to the mix, and it was just like, I mean, back then I was just like, okay, you know what? I looked at it like, okay, this is like one of like the many artists that I have to promote. You know what I mean? Because it was not just Big Time Records. It was all these other record labels and artists that I had to get out there and seed product and make sure all these mix show DJs, like whether it's college radio, commercial, play these artists. So I wasn't really like just completely focused on DJ Screw until many years later, where I'm like, this guy is part of our history here in Texas. Big time, right?
Huge.
And
and
it kind of goes back to what, kind of circles back to what, we talked at the very beginning about like Black history, where, we live in a state, and we live in a, especially here in Austin, where we focus on just certain artists.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're so much more than that.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And whether it's DJ Screw or whoever it may be, you know what I mean? It's not just one thing. It's so many
it's so many things.
Yeah.
It can be so many different things. I've been I think inspired by those blues festivals I grew up going to as a tiny little kid. Literally being backstage.
Yeah.
I kind of have like my own like Texas blues vinyl collection, and that is even sometimes when I'm looking for a thing to do with my mom, like I'll be like, let's just go to a record store and pick out some things of people you remember.
Yeah.
And we'll buy some stuff. And on that note, I have something else to share too.
Ooh.
A couple things. It's pretty related.
Yeah. Let's do it.
It'll be quick, but
it's all good. It's show and tell time.
It is show and tell, but I was really happy for these. And we're talking about artifacts, right? So
yeah. You brought clothing.
I brought a couple of these. Well, because it's an artifact from an event, from a show,
Okay.
So here are 2 shirts.
So show the camera. So this is Juneteenth festival. What year is that?
This one I think is, oh Lord.
What year is that?
This one's 1987. This other one I think is 86.
Okay, so let's show the audience the first one. Wow.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is these are shirts. So my mom essentially was like assistant to the executive director of this nonprofit called Laney Steele, who was actually he was actually himself a jazz pianist professor at TSU.
Yeah.
She took over. He passed away, unfortunately, but she took over and ran it. And so basically, like, these are huge artifacts of like the Juneteenth celebration in Houston, which is huge. I think like one year my mom was like one of the biggest ones. It was like 15,000 people. And it's a free event out in the hill out there. And so I had a third one of these. And it's blue, and it says like Some Arts Concerts, and you can find the poster for this. But I wanted to bring this up because this happened recently. I bought Stevie Ray Vaughan's like Texas Flood, and I'd had this other T-shirt, which is like this light knit, and it had like the white graphics on it. It looks so cool. It's literally like someone holding the outline of someone holding a guitar. And you can't see their head, but it's the hands holding the guitar, and at the bottom of the frame, it's got the feet with shackles, and the chains are broken, which embodies Juneteenth. And that is such a cool shirt. I wore it a lot in college. Listen, I don't know what happened to it. I think someone who perhaps was, I had roommates. People were saying, I don't know what. Maybe I let someone borrow. Who knows what happened?
Maybe an ex ran on with it or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I really miss it, and it's funny because that shirt I bought Sierra Texas Flood. It's got the front on the back. He's him with the band. He's wearing that exact same shirt.
Is he?
And I think it's the 1988 shirt, like the shirt that came right after this. And
so which Stevie Ray Vaughan record again? Texas Flood.
I think it's Texas Flood.
Okay, so
we can. I guarantee it's in the show.
Okay, Elijah, like if you in post show a cover of Texas Flood and then the back side of it, and maybe try to focus in on the T-shirt that Stevie's wearing. Wow. Yeah. And so you had that shirt.
Yeah, and I didn't realize I did have it because it was my mom's. All these were my mom's shirts from when she was part of that, blues and jazz scene.
Do you ever wear them?
Oh, I wear these all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I wear these all the
time.
Cool.
Very cool.
So, just speaking on artifacts and thinking about that, like I realize like, physical things are awesome. Like we're very fortunate to have these things that we can hold on to. I don't know if you remember, like even at the bike ride, like we've been working with Chris Tobar to create those trading cards.
Dude, so cool. So I was given these trading cards. I mean, dude, they're like legit collectible trading cards.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back to the whole flyer thing where like it's not this thing that, you could just do immediately. I mean, there's a process to it and having to go through all that, right? So that to hold that, I mean, it was cool. It was really cool. I'm glad that you reminded me because I need to get that out of my DJ bag and like place it on my coffee table as like kind of like a conversation piece, because like everything that's on my coffee table is intentional, where it's like, okay, if someone comes over, they see it. Whether it's the iPod or, a couple of the books that I just bought recently. And then I definitely wanted to put those trading cards on the coffee table.
Put them on the coffee table. And I mean, like what we did was just like, back to your point of like, we're consuming so much media digitally and through the phones. And, I do it every day too. Finding a way to like just connect like, a face and a name to a location and give people like a tangible little bit of history. We have one for Barbara Jordan. We have one for Hezekiah Haskell, for whom the Haskell House in Clarksville is named after, whom if you're, people who don't know, we have one of the oldest freedom communities. We had one of the oldest freedom communities in Austin. It's called Clarksville. It's now a very nice neighborhood. But, like there's just so many interesting historical nuggets. And so it was really cool, me and the team and working with Chris, like coming up with this idea and then like creating some physical things that people can use. Like they're trading cards, but they're kind of maybe sort of like flashcards. But the response we got for those, it's 2026, like giving people physical things doesn't seem like something people are doing, but but when we did it with the trading cards, people were like elated and they were like, when are we getting the next round? Chris is working on some more right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it was
is it something that you can like give away or you can offer like online, or is it just something like that you would just give away at your events?
We just give them away at the events, but I think we will start if people want to order them online or something. We'll find a way to do that.
So speaking of tangible things, do you still have like t-shirts?
We do still have t-shirts.
Dude, there's a couple, like I know.
Oh, I got one here. Actually.
I know you guys blessed me with that is the shirt that I want.
Did you get one of these?
No, I got the purple one.
Okay.
Yeah, that one. I want to get a small version of that.
Yeah.
That shirt is sick. Because I filmed like everyone dancing at the end, and they all had that shirt on. I'm like, why didn't I get that one?
You want that one? Yeah. No, wait,
very
I got
cool.
you. I got
okay.
you. I don't have the shirts with me, but I got you. Absolutely.
Yeah. The trading cards, man, that's so cool.
Yeah, but that's even it's like I have these vintage shirts from like over almost 40 years ago.
I know
and it's been cool. Like our project, like we make these shirts, and
I know. And 40 years from now,
we have people like volunteers, but also homies. Like we have. I think this version of the shirt, over the last 7 years, we've done a new shirt at least once a year.
Yeah.
Not every year, but we have at least 6 different shirts, and we have some people who have all 6.
Yeah.
Which is funny.
Yeah, I saw, when I was at the event, I'm like, there were some that were rocking some of the older ones, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, I want that one. And I think you told me, we don't have those here. I was just like, damn, like that shirt's dope.
Yeah. But yeah, we definitely have 2 different blacks, red, green. We actually have a third black. And then the purple, and I don't know, it's cool that, people want to rep what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's a bike ride, but it's also, a way to make a statement about supporting Black history and continuing to educate yourself and, being out in the community.
Exactly. I think it's so much more than just the bike ride now.
Yeah, definitely.
That's how this is me, speaking from the outside. I mean, I think it's just so much more than that.
Yeah.
And it's really, really great. So, Talib, like, can you let the listeners know where they can find you online, more about yourself personally? Like if you have your own, like your socials, also, the website and all the socials for the Black History Bike Ride.
Yeah. So our stuff is pretty easy. The most up-to-date place to keep up with us is going to be Instagram. And our Instagram handle is just Black History Bike Ride. That's it. Black History Bike Ride. It's pretty simple. Our website also, blackhistorybikeRide.com. I think we even have that on the logo here. I don't know if you can see that from here, but it's just blackhistorybikeRide.com. We have info about our upcoming events. When I keep the website updated.
Yeah.
Running a business, a lot of work. But also, we have trailers for both of our movies and more info about our movie screenings if you'd like to check that out. If you'd like to follow, we do have an Instagram for the new movie, Cycles of Resilience. Handle is just Cycles of Resilience.
I'm going to do that right now.
Do it now. And then if you'd like to follow me, I'm probably just, posting hot takes in my stories, but it's just Talib, Talib.
There it's Cycles of Resilience.
Cycles of Resilience. One
I am
word.
following now.
Yeah. But yeah, we're fortunate to have support of the city of Austin this year. We hope that continues to happen. Because you're right. Like it started as a bike ride. And I think, if one was to say like, well, we need funding to keep this going, we realize like we've created an opportunity to, like we created an opportunity where there wasn't exactly one before to teach, our community and individuals in Austin about Black history. I always usually ask like how many have come on a ride before and how many are new. And like this year it was like way over 50% were new people that have never come to any of our events.
Yeah.
So there are also many other great organizations that are doing good work too. But I feel really strongly that, there are many different lanes to liberation, like there's not just like one way to do certain things. So the fact that, kind of out of, from 6-7 years ago, nothing to have created, these bodies of work. We have the movies, we have people who've really spent, and, we have support from so many different amazing places. It's really amazing that we've created this unique way to teach about Black history. And really, part of me is like, I kind of just want to like create more opportunities for people to learn outdoors. It's, so you're not just consuming everything through a computer or a phone,
Yeah. Or like maybe a movie theater or whatever,
Yeah.
just to be outside. And that was the best part of the event that I DJ'd at, was just being outside, just period. Being
We're outside. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just, oh man, it was a very, you were blessed. We were blessed with great weather that day. Yes, it was warm and it was humid, but it didn't rain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just to be around vegetation,
Yeah, there's shade
outside.
We were on the farm.
It was, it was the best. And the Black History bike ride it's just so much more than just the actual ride itself. Just to have a documentary, just two of them. I think it's cool. You know what I mean? Because I know, like, just my brain and where, just from coming from a background where just trying to throw events and throwing ideas against the wall and seeing it stick. Like, I really appreciate it where it can, like, I know we said this, or at least I've said this a couple times, just from it being like a scrappy little bike ride to what it is now is just, and I think it's just part of what makes this town great. You know what I mean? It could always be better, right? But just to have what you're doing in this town is just, I think we're just extremely fortunate to have that.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And I kind of say like, I had the idea and some of the skills to put some of it together, but really it's been the community and the support, people showing up to volunteer year after year, event after event, and just doing it because, they believe in the mission. Or, like, if anything, like I feel very fortunate, like none of it wouldn't be possible without support from everyone. Like ultimately it's bigger than just me. It's bigger than just any one individual. It's like, we're essentially embarking on our own way to share Black history and Black stories. And so that's something that I want to continue to live on and hopefully inspire other people to do in their own ways. It doesn't have to necessarily be Black history, when my whole thing is like, if they're saying like, okay, well, this is so unfortunate that they're taking the history out of the school books. Indeed. However, if you know what's up and you want to, I think more people should feel empowered to go out and tell their stories in public and get people together, because, you can't, no one's going to tell you can't do that in public space, in front of, historic markers in different locations. So
right.
I think we all have, the power to be kind of in our own way, like an everyday change maker, even literally in small ways.
Yeah.
And I hope we're able to reach more people and spread that message.
I think you will. I hope that this inspires other folks in other places in Texas to do the same, because there's a lot of untold history here.
Yeah,
a lot.
There is.
Talib, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, for you being generous, and thank you for being on the Sound of First podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, and yeah.